So I talked about the Clippers after that crazy comeback. We're going to talk about the Clippers again. So if it's possible for a team to make the best case to potential free agents, I think the Clippers did it. With pushing the Warriors to a Game 6 and showing the mentality of a team that's not going to give up, and Doc Rivers is very well respected throughout the NBA. You could certainly picture a player like Kawhi Leonard or whoever being like, yeah, I'm totally all in on going to that place. We've already heard the rumors about Kawhi wanting to go to Los Angeles, and I guess the Clippers are kind of in the driver's seat there, more so than the Lakers. Plus, there's this weird thing about the Clippers sending like a scout to every Raptors game or something. That's a real thing. I don't know if it's on Google, but I've heard it on podcasts and stuff. So they're kind of all in on Kawhi. And there's a chance that some would suggest the only way the Raptors can keep Kawhi is if they win the finals or whatever. But even so, if it's not Kawhi, it's Kevin Durant, it's insert other star free agent. So they're going to be in a position to get some dudes. But the very interesting thing about this Clippers team is even if they don't hit any home runs in free agency, the core of their team is still under contract, and they have amazing deals. I mean, they got Shea and Shamet on rookie contracts. You got Montrez making $6 million next season. You got Lou making $8 million. You got Gallo at 22, which maybe a little bit of an overpay, whatever. And that's kind of it. So they could actually not do anything too crazy, and they could still have a pretty decent team moving into, next year and beyond. But the other thing is, they have a lot of assets to make a trade. So we assume the Anthony Davis stuff is going to pop up again this offseason, and the Clippers have quite a bit of ammo. I mean, they have Miami's pick in 2021, and with where the Heat are right now, that pick could end up being really good, could end up being not so good, depending on how the next couple years go with Justice and Richardson and Bam's improvement, and eventually Miami's going to get cap space, but there's a chance they could be kind of a blah team. They also have all of their own picks. They have Philly's pick in 2020 or 2022, depending on the protection or whatever. So the draft picks are there, and then between Shea and Shamet and Jerome Robinson, who is apparently an NBA player, Gallo's contract, Montrez, who looked great against the Warriors, had his best season this year. That's a lot of stuff that you can give a team, and that's a lot of stuff you could give the Pelicans for Anthony Davis. And when you look at the idea of the Celtics not giving up Tatum, the Lakers offer now not looking as awesome because of the unfortunate stuff with Brandon Ingram's health, there's a chance that the Clippers could be in the driver's seat for an Anthony Davis trade. And still got Lou Williams. I mean, you'd have to assume that he would be the one dude that would not be moved in a trade, and the dude's put up over 20 points a game for 2 years in a row now. So that's a hell of a number 2 guy, potentially a number 3 guy if you can then sign a star free agent. I mean, there's a chance the Clippers could be super loaded going into next season. Now, this is being very optimistic. There's a chance that they don't make a trade for a star, and there's a chance they don't sign a star. But even then, I know that they're not going to be stupid. They're not going to commit long contracts to dudes who don't really deserve it. They're not going to use up their cap space just for the sake of doing it. So they're going to keep their options open. But again, if you were ever going to attract a star while being an 8th seed, this is pretty much the way to do it. The other things that we can talk about is how their young guys could improve going into next season, specifically Montrez, Shea, Shamet. I guess Zubac can kind of be in here. He kind of got played off the floor against the Warriors, but to be fair, I think that's okay, especially when you're 22 years old. But I mean, you look at Shea. I mean, I did a whole video on Shea, so if you want more of a breakdown in my opinion of the guy, go to that. But I mean, he looked awesome against the Warriors. I don't know what his stats for the series ended up being. It's 14 points, 3 assists, less than 1 turnover. Efficiency was very good. He just looked really composed, to the point where, like, he already was starting for them this season, and I feel even more comfortable about him being a starting point guard in the NBA next year. I mean, in terms of just knowing who he is and not doing anything dumb and actually being a little more aggressive with his shot, getting up to 3 threes a game against the Warriors. All that stuff is the most important thing with him. Shamet has all the confidence in the world. I feel like I do want to look at his stats for the Clippers. So he was up to 11 points a game for the Clippers in the 25 games that he played for them. I could picture him averaging like 16 points next season, being basically JJ Redick. And even then, having more ball handling chops than Redick does and being a better defensive player. Then having those two with Lou as your backcourt sort of thing, but also the fact that Shea, being 6'6" with alien arms, can defend a few positions. You could play all three of those guys together, and I think you can have some pretty good success. So that's a great foundation for this team. I think bringing back Patrick Beverley could be in the cards. He's making $5 million this year. I think he could make about that, maybe a little more, but nothing too much higher. Of course they're going to be concerned with getting max dudes, so everything else they do will be affected by that. Now, in the case of Montrez, I don't want to go as nuts about his potential, not because I don't think he can get a little better, but I feel like he was always kind of this guy. It's just now he finally got the opportunity to really do it, so I mean, he was up to 16 points and 6.5 boards, being a hustle dude and having some, real skills in terms of finishing, and he's always a factor on the offensive glass, so I feel like he's just going to keep on being that guy. So I guess I don't think his ceiling is as high as some of the other dudes in this team, but that's nothing really against him, I guess. And then in the case of Lou Williams, I mean, number one, the contract Lou is on is amazing, but also, even at 32, it seems like he's going to keep on being pretty awesome. I mean, what might be a sort of weird thing is how he took a lot less threes this season compared to the last few years, but his free throws were still pretty impressive, which is wild for a guy who's 32 years old and he can still beat dudes off the bounce and everything. So basically what I'm getting at is the Clippers are in a position, and I want to mention Gallo for 5 seconds. Gallo's cool. Anyway, the position the Clippers are in is basically they can go, all right, we're going to go all in for a star, we sign a dude, and we still have a good team. We can trade for a star, we have the assets. We have the cap space to where we could potentially do both of those things. But if we can't get a big-time player, we still got a good team, we're still way under the salary cap, to the point where they might even be below the salary floor. But yeah, they're in a great spot, they really are. Kudos to everything they've done, and we will see if going into next season the Clippers are title contenders. It's certainly possible. Some crazy things would have to happen, but if they were ever going to happen, then they would happen after a season like this one, where they put the entire league on notice that this is a great culture, Doc's doing some awesome things, the players love being there, the front office knows what they're doing. So we'll just see what happens. I mean, if we're going to look at the Kevin Durant rumors and it's between the Knicks or these guys, I mean, if Kevin Durant cares at all about the stuff around the floor of basketball, then I don't know how you'd really pick the Knicks over the Clippers, so there's that.